Benjamin Adolph Rodrigues Ottolengui was an American writer and dentist. Born in 1861 in Charleston, South Carolina, the son of Daniel Ottolengui, a freelance journalist, theater manager and clerk, and Helen Rosalie Rodrigues. Educated at the College of Charleston, he moved to New York in 1877 and served as apprentice to Dr. J. Albert Kimball. In 1885, he received his degree of Master of Dental Surgery from the New York State Board of Regents. He was a dental pioneer, being one of the first dentists to use X-rays, while also serving as editor on the dental journal Items of Interest for almost 40 years. He married May Hall, who died in 1936. Ottolengui died a year later in New York. Ottolengui was an avid reader of detective stories, and in the 1890s he penned 4 detective novels, his first being An Artist in Crime in 1892. His final novel, The Crime of the Century, was published in 1896, and in 1898 he published a collection of detective stories, Final Proof or The Value of Evidence. Ottolengui wrote no more fiction for the final 40 years of his life. Focusing on his dentistry, we shall be covering his most fantastic work, his 1894 A Modern Wizard. The novel begins in 1873 in a lawyer's office, where a certain Dr. Emmanuel Medjora, who is suspected of having murdered his wife, chooses to make his appearance. Following the death of his wife, he had disappeared inexplicably, but is now here, in the firm of Dudley and Bliss, asking to be represented. This stuns the pair of them, as Dudley had just read the newspaper account of the murder and decided Medjora was guilty. What follows is a lengthy trial, which Ottolengui presents in rather numbing procedural detail, giving us near the whole cross-examination of all the witnesses, and the entire closing speech of the defense and of the state attorney, which repeat points which had already been referred to many times prior. Dr. Medjora, however, is more than a common man, accused of having done away with the old ball and chain, as it were. He possesses powerful hypnotic abilities, and routinely hypnotizes people, being an inconsiderate, brutish oaf in his treatment of others. He considers himself special, and claims descent from the healing god Esculapius, who he claims was a North American native wise man, venerated as a god before the world flood. The second part of the book, taking place years later, after his acquittal, has Medjora finding and adopting the orphan boy Leon, who is secretly his own son, with his first wife. Medjora tries to control his son as indiscriminately as everyone else, for example, making him and a neighborhood girl fall in love through his hypnotic powers. This seems to set up a conflict between the two, but nothing of the sort happens. Instead, Leon finds a secret passage in Medjora's house, leading him into an underground cave system which contains a giant pyramid supposedly built by Esculapius himself. But despite the potential of this idea, nothing ever comes of it either. Instead, Medjora purposefully drives himself insane to avoid being taken to court over the death of his second wife, and the book just ends. The story is unusual, going from the mundane to the fantastic and bizarre, seemingly at a whim, yet it sadly doesn't know what to do with it, as there are glimpses of truly exhilarating ideas, but sadly nothing more. The lost race element, for example, is extremely marginal.